Welcome to Wine Plus AI. We're your hosts and wine lovers, Adrian and Zaina. This is the podcast where we break it all down for real people, not the people who are working in the terminal.
Just the truth about AI. What's brilliant, what's broken, and what's straight up ridiculous.
Let's get into it.
Welcome back to another episode. Today we're going to talk about why does every LinkedIn post sound like it was written by ChatGPT. And I really can't wait to dive into this one because I have a lot of opinions here.
Yeah, we have quite a few bones to pick, but before we get into it, we are here with a beautiful bottle of Riesling. So Riesling is actually one of my favorite wines. Interesting how it pairs with this because Riesling can either be sharp, crisp, brilliant, minerally, or it can be way too sweet, which is kind of how we feel about some of the LinkedIn content out there. It's hit or miss. Sometimes AI is good for it. Sometimes AI is bad for it. We'll discuss in detail today with a nice glass. All right. So what's the number one bone you want to pick today, Zaina?
I think for me, the number one bone I want to pick is the amount of convolution and pollution you get on LinkedIn with AI. Slop. Yeah, I think that's the best way to describe it. There is so much going on, and there are so many people trying to kind of grow their standing on LinkedIn, grow their audience on LinkedIn. But I see the same posts 10 times a day. And I find being on LinkedIn quite disheartening sometimes these days.
Yeah, so I pulled out some stats before the episode. So apparently 54% of long form posts in English are likely AI generated, which is insane.
Honestly, I thought it would be more.
Yeah.
But it might be my bubble.
Yeah, true. And to be fair, AI, it doesn't actually necessarily impact using AI to write your post doesn't necessarily impact the reach. However, AI generated posts tend to get 30% less reach and 55% less engagement. And also this stat I love, well, visuals powered by AI see even lower clicks by less than 70%. So, which I can kind of understand because, okay, one of my bones that I want to pick is the fact that we use robots always on LinkedIn to kind of represent AI in the visuals. Why? And it's always the same robot. It's always the robotic hand reaching out with like a light at the end or a bunch of robots in the background. I can't stand it. It's my biggest ick. I cannot.
Yeah, I can completely agree with that. Yeah.
All right. So I want to dig into more what these stats are saying is like, listen, there's a lot of AI content out there and some of it performs. That's the thing. So yes, 30% less reach on average, 55% less engagement, but that means that some of them are actually getting some reach. So what is it? What's the problem here? One of the problems I think is the templated nature of things. So you see a lot of templates out there. I see a lot of templates out there. Let's get into it.
Yeah, I think, for example, if we look at when agentic AI first kind of blew up on LinkedIn, which was earlier this year, end of last year, a lot of people were kind of copy pasting posts across each other. So one would blow up and people were then copying exactly the same style with maybe some tiny changes or probably asking ChatGPT, can you make this sound a bit more like me? And in the hopes it would also blow up, but it's not original. It's basically copying something that did work with the exact same content. So it's very likely that it will blow up again with the exact same output. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think, but it is interesting because I think that was happening even before AI was actually a thing. People would just copy the thing, they would do it themselves, and at least maybe they would add a unique perspective, but I think that is now just kind of out the window. It's now just volume because AI actually allows for that volume. So if you're somebody who doesn't like posting, you can literally use one of a bajillion AI tools that are specifically designed for LinkedIn for posting. And you can say, okay, I'm just going to get it to post on this topic. And you'll only give it a topic, right? You're not even going to give it details. Most people are not. That's what I'm seeing. So they're using the templates with almost no context, no details. And they're saying, yeah, I'm hoping that this post is going to perform, which is quite sad.
Yeah, I think that's the best way to describe it. Yeah, I think, and if you look at like the posts that do blow up and that do perform well, oftentimes they do have some form of personal touch still. So they might be AI generated or uh, AI enabled, I would say, but a lot of them do have that personal layer as well because it's not just a copy paste straight from ChatGPT. I think it makes such a big difference in engagement. Like if I'm scrolling through LinkedIn, which I usually do sometimes like on my commute to work, the posts that catch my eye are the ones that do have any form of personal layer in it. And if I read the first three sentences and feel like this was written by ChatGPT or there's three M dashes in the first three sentences, I will just scroll past. I will not even read what's going on.
Okay, I'm like, I don't even know if we want to get into the M dash, but obviously I think like the world is saturated by this whole conversation, so maybe we just don't get into it. However, one of the templates, let's just say that AI tends to use, and I want to fight about this because like it makes me so mad because I think like this, and maybe again, am I a robot? I don't know. But basically it uses crisp headlines like, have you ever thought about this? Or like my day started like this and then this. And like then it leaves the spaces for the dwell time and it catches your attention, and that's apparently a way of spotting AI in your LinkedIn post. And I'm like, no, but I wrote that. Like if I thought about that because I think like a marketing prompt, which is maybe I need to rewire my brain.
Thinking like a prompt, definitely. Yeah. Yeah, I think for me, it always reminds me of sensational newspapers that have a really, really strong headline or a really catchy one, but then usually are quite disappointing in the article itself.
Clickbait.
Exactly. Exactly.
But like, okay, so I recently wrote a post that was I didn't use AI at all. I was just inspired and I talked about how I yelled at lost my shit at a colleague. You can check it out on my LinkedIn profile, but uh, it it like got people. It basically tricked people. And I don't know, maybe that's like a tacky way of doing things, but I was like, "Oh, I tricked you." Hee hee hee. I felt it was fun. It was fun.
It was a good post, but I
Yeah.
do think with that post as well, you still had a personal touch to it.
For sure,
Like
for sure.
you tagged me in it as well. You mentioned a few things that we were literally discussing in the office half an hour before you posted it on LinkedIn. The headline in itself, I don't think is the problem, but oftentimes that like clickbaity headline is then there and then nothing follows.
Yeah, it's the story, it's the advice, it's the insight, whatever it is. One thing that, of course, I think is also like a big AI red flag is when things are too polished. And I'll give you an example. One of our founders really doesn't like having AI polish his LinkedIn posts, specifically because he says people know I don't talk like that. And that's fair enough. And I think it goes into this idea of you want to come off as authentic. And sometimes being a little messy is authentic.
Yeah, it's the rawness.
Yeah, the rawness. And I think, that's kind of, I feel like that's honestly very freeing about this stage and wherever the heck we are. It's that actually now you can be a little messier. Same with like video content, for example. It is more authentic when, it's just actually your iPhone recording and there are some bloopers or you don't say everything 100% correctly. And I think there is some freedom in that rawness.
Yeah, I can see that. But I can imagine also from your perspective, being also kind of responsible in the company to make sure people also are posting on LinkedIn and like creating brand awareness, things like that, where I can imagine that bringing in that rawness doesn't necessarily feel natural for everyone. I know, for example, for myself, I like posting on LinkedIn is just not part of my bread and butter. You've told me quite a few times to go and post on LinkedIn.
You're just a LinkedIn hater. That's
Exactly. But I can imagine also for other team members, it's just not the most natural thing to do. So that rawness that is in the story might be really hard for them to portray. How do you kind of like deal with that?
Yeah, so that's my biggest challenge at times because I think for now I'm working with a few people to make sure that we're posting maybe a little bit more consistently. But again, I know how important that rawness is and that authentic story in order to make sure that people don't feel like it's AI generated content. It's AI assisted, but it's not AI generated. And number one, that just takes time. And it also needs, I think the biggest pet peeve that I have, and it's just it's real. I understand it, but it's like, oh, I don't know what I want to say. I say like, hey, like we're doing X, Y, or Z, and I'd love for you to post about it. We're going to this event, and I almost don't provide the sample text anymore because people literally just copy paste it. And that's the worst thing that you can,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. And I get it. They are posting, but
To
what's the
start.
result?
Yeah.
What's the result? And there is none because it is literally just copy pasted text. And I think the big challenge is helping people understand, like, okay, how does this relate back to your job? What do you find exciting about this? What would you want to share about this? And I think that's quite challenging. But once you get that, and once you get people comfortable sharing those sort of things, then you're much better off. With one of our other founders, I'm also doing like a weekly brain dump with him. So we talk for anywhere from 15 to 30 minutes. He gives me a bunch of we just talk. We literally just talk, and I ask him, "Hey, what did you learn last week?" I feel a little bit like a parent at the dinner table. I'm like, "Hey, what did you learn last week?" But it's true. When you're working on a product, you learn so much in the space of a week. And we talk about some, nitpicky things about AI. And I translate those into notes and themes. Then I propose a bunch of posts, and I have AI basically take what I've put together as his brand tone of voice from his old LinkedIn post, but also kind of edited from our conversations of where how he wants to go to market himself, which is kind of interesting. And then we create posts that are maybe a little bit more specific. They have the context, they have the authenticity. We also say, yeah, I want to give always specific stories to his experience. And I think that's done a lot better rather than the kind of like generic posting.
Yeah, I think the specific stories and the realness of those are so important. Like when it's generic, it's just like really fluffy examples or a group said, someone said. It's just, at least for me, it just doesn't do anything for me. I'm just like, okay, sure. So I think that makes a big difference. Yeah.
One of the bones that I also want to pick with AI content is the engagement farming or engagement ransoms, where people say, "Yeah, I have this mega playbook. This is what I've created," especially in AI, and then you have to comment to get it. And
Yes.
it's honestly the worst thing in the world.
Yeah, I think that part is like my Roman Empire. I hate it. And
You hate the
there's
Roman Empire? Hold up. We need to back up
yeah.
on that.
I do not hate the Roman Empire, just for the record.
You think about it all the
I
time.
think about it all the time. Yes. And I think every time I open my LinkedIn, half of my feed is those posts like comment this for that, comment this for that, comment and follow me, comment and this. I'm like, just share the thing.
Okay, I agree. And okay, but I think I have perhaps a conspiracy theory around this. So I really believe that number one, a lot of the resources that I've received, either you don't receive them at all, or they're very thin, or they're like uber technical, in which case those things already existed for developers long ago. But my idea is that a lot of these companies, their product is not quite there yet when it comes to what it's actually able to deliver. But what they're doing is they're creating a channel for themselves before their product is actually ready to go to market. So they are literally building an audience of people who would be interested in their product if their product was there yet. And then once it is there, then they have an audience ready to buy. But their product's not there yet. So literally, you're basically just signing up for potentially a wait list for a product that might work.
Yeah, it's kind of like the hype generation, basically. But at least for me, my attention span is not that long. So if I want something in that moment and I'm, yeah, I don't know, responding to one of those posts and then get a really like lean response or playbook or whatever it may be, and the product is then there in a few weeks, months' time, I probably will not be interested in it anymore because either I will have found a different solution in the meantime for myself, or there's probably a different problem I'm solving at that point in time.
Yeah, no, I agree. I don't necessarily have the attention span for that. And if I really, really wanted it, indeed, I would have found something else by then. But yeah, I honestly, I hope LinkedIn does something about this because I cannot handle it. It's the worst. One of the things that I also see quite a lot and very problematic, and something that AI has actually really facilitated, is the fact that we're rewarding volume.
Yeah.
And we are getting a lot of slop out there because the idea we somehow as a collective, as professionals on LinkedIn, we've kind of decided like, oh, okay, well, people don't remember everything I post. So who gives a shit? They'll literally post something with the idea that like, well, if 1 out of 7 has some success, then we're all good here.
Yeah, I also am really not a fan of LinkedIn rewarding volume because it just clutters. It just creates so much noise. And like it also, at least for me, creates this like disinterest in anything that's posted because I just assume it is volume and I just assume it is not necessarily that relevant.
And I think yeah, I think because AI is allowing for this volume, you're basically spreading out any insight that you might have over multiple posts, which is honestly so torturous, and you lose the kind of value of that insight in general.
And also the likelihood of the same people seeing post 1, 2, and 3, given how much there is quite low. Like unless someone is like continuously interacting with you on LinkedIn, they're probably not going to see the other two.
But you know what? Okay, I'll give some credit here. LinkedIn is doing something interesting and I think kind of positive, though I'm sure someone's going to hack this soon if they have not hacked it already, to make LinkedIn shit again. But basically what they do is you're more likely to get engagement on your post if you've been commenting on other posts frequently. On one hand, I think this is toxic AF because it means that you have to be chronically online for your LinkedIn channel to do well at all. On the other hand, I also think that it's trying to foster something that is a bit more authentically community led. And it is interesting because for me, I engage with other people in the marketing space, in the B2B space, in the tech space in Amsterdam. And I do see a difference when I've been online leaving 1 or 2 comments versus I just post and I leave. So I think
Yeah, I can see the like benefits in it to also really create more of that like community engagement within LinkedIn. But I also definitely have seen some people who have been, yeah, I think trying to like grow their LinkedIn audience and therefore doing a lot of the commenting using also AI to write their
okay,
comments.
yes.
Yeah.
And you can tell. You can
Yes.
absolutely tell when
Always.
AI because it always again, it goes back to this idea that there's a format, right?
Hmm.
It always ends in a question. And it's
Yes.
always like, how do you see that? Or
Yes.
have you ever experienced a time where blank? And I'm just like, who engages like this?
And also most of the time the question is only semi-related to the post.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's one person that I think, it's quite funny. I see comments and I'm like, "Is it AI or is it just this person?" And I think sometimes it is actually just that person. Or maybe yeah, I don't know. It's like, does life imitate art or does art imitate life? I think sometimes people see stuff that is AI generated and they're like, "Oh yeah, it does engage." Or it has the all the makings of engage and it has a structure. Oh, wow. I will repeat that. And yeah.
Maybe the person is also a robot.
Yeah, exactly. I think that is the bigger question. Um, all right. So how do we balance kind of originality and polish? Like what's the balance there? How polished should you be versus how unhinged, messy, raw should you be at this point?
I personally have the opinion that the more raw, the better, because I think everyone is trying to present a certain image of themselves on LinkedIn, trying to be something that they either are or maybe are not. And I think the rawness is really a positive. I think if I look, for example, at sometimes see from the like previous founders of mine or other people in my network that are having also like certain struggles, for example, with what they're working on or their companies, it creates a different kind of relation to that person. Like it resonates because it actually means something. It actually has some sort of emotion or situation attached to it that one can relate to. And I think that is a way more positive way of engaging and actually having actual engagement on a deeper level than just comment if you want this. And so I'm all for rawness personally. What's your take?
Yeah, I'm all for rawness. I like structure. I mean, I like to have a story that is easy to follow. So I think the story has to be real. absolutely has to be real. People smell BS from a mile away. You have all of these like LinkedIn influencers or like, yeah, I don't, there's a term for it. I can't remember what it is, but you just have these people who make these crazy claims.
On my way to work, I
Yeah.
ran into
Oh yeah,
saved the
exactly.
dog.
What I learned about B2B marketing from my getting married, for example.
Love those.
Yeah,
Rage, rage.
I got married post, but it was fun and it was on brand.
And it was real.
Yeah, and it was real. It was real. It was real. But like I think the story has to be real. And I think if you have a story and then you can add AI on top of that to polish it a little bit, but have your own brand tone of make your own brand tone of voice. What do you like talking about? What are you passionate about? What's your perspective on specific things? And I think you're going to get much better content out there. And also just don't post to post. Like have a purpose in your posting.
Yeah, and I think it's also just important to stay true to how you communicate, because people who also have interacted with you outside of LinkedIn, they know how you communicate. So if you're posting something that's just full AI blurbs, basically, they will know. They will immediately know. And everyone else will probably also guess it.
Luckily, people are their own AI BS detectors. So that will always be your filter. So if you're not getting engagement on your posts, it's probably because of that and you're using AI too heavily and you need a unique perspective. Go out into the world, find a story, find a perspective.
And also keep your comments real.
Yeah, and keep your comments real. All right, so that's the end of our episode. We're going to ask you to comment in the section like this to get your copy of X, Y, or Z. No, we're not going to do that. We're going to post this on JoyLab. You know what to do. Subscribe, follow, and we'll see you in the next one.
See you next time.
Cheers.
That's it for this week. You know the drill.
Like, subscribe,
and see you next week.
Cheers.